hold on to your vision. And that's perfect for what we're talking about this month and our theme of living your vision. And today we're going to be looking at what it actually takes to get there, to actually live our vision. And my talk today is get out of the way. Get out of the way. Now, I don't know about you, but I sometimes recognize where I might have been in my own way occasionally of the good coming to me. Yes, I see nods. And it's usually easier, though, to see that in the rearview mirror, right? Looking back and going, look what I did. So today we're going to look at some ways that maybe we can begin to see that a little sooner in our lives. There's a story in our Joyous Living Journal that we're using this month that is about the wonderful violinist, Itzhak Perlman. And it's an interaction with a fan that he had once. And the fan came up and the fan said, "Oh, Mr. Perlman, I would give my life if I could play like you." And Perlman looked at him and he goes, I did. And he has given his life to being the best through his study, through his practice, through his performance, and he spent the time required to become the best. And my talk today for us is about embracing and becoming and accepting our call into our greater yet to be without struggle, without a lot of effort. And you may be saying to yourself, oh, really? Really? Do tell. Well, it is easier than we think. We do make it a little more difficult than it needs to be. So let's take a look. You may be familiar with Ralph Waldo Emerson. Of course, Emerson was a huge influence on Dr. Ernest Holmes. And he's got a quote that says, "Let us take our bloated nothingness out of the path of the divine circuits." Now, when I first heard that, I went, now wait a minute. And it took some spiritual discernment to really understand what he was trying to tell us here. Because what comes up first when you're told to get your bloated nothingness out of the way? Ego. What? I'm not bloated nothingness. I'm brilliant, right? All of that stuff comes up. So it takes some spiritual discernment to get underneath this idea. And he's suggesting that we need to do that, to get behind our egos, behind our small self, and allow spirit to flow through our lives, to allow that to flow. But of course, if we did that, we would put every motivational speaker on the planet out of business, right? Because we wouldn't need them anymore. But seriously, it does sound like it's pretty simple. The challenge can be developing the faith that we need, building the faith that we need, the trust that we need in the infinite, in this universal system, that it really does work, that it really does work in my life. It really will work for little old me, right? And that's a pretty big leap sometimes. But yeah, we believe that the planets are all hanging in their orbit and doing their thing, and that the seasons are going to come, and all of the natural wonders of the world and the way things work. But when it comes down to us and the interaction within our own lives, sometimes we can get stuck there about, really, it's going to work in my life? We've been conditioned. We have been conditioned that we need to work hard, we need to struggle, we need to compete, we need to win, we need to beat the other person. There's not enough to go around. I got to get in there and get mine first. We've been conditioned to that idea and that thinking to the point that we've diminished that knowingness, that faith that we all came in with, that we were all born with, that we knew we'd be taken care of. Think of a little bitty baby infant. Just downright helpless when they're born, aren't they? But they trust completely that they will be taken care of and provided for. And it's a fascinating thing to think about, that they can't do anything for themselves. We couldn't, as we were born, couldn't do anything for ourselves. We had to be taken care of. But then we began to grow up, and we began to receive the conditioning, didn't we? We began to receive the conditioning that we must be strong little boys and girls. We must go out there and compete. We must win. We must be strong. Now, I'm not saying that's wrong, because we need those skills, obviously, to survive in society as it's set up today. However, along with that conditioning, if we don't receive or are not taught about the faith and trust of God along the way, about this universal system and how it works, then we're going to be convinced that we're separate, that we're alone, that we really do have to do everything on our own. And many are convinced of that there is separation, that we are alone, that we must achieve on our own. It was Dr. Martin Luther King who said, "You will have as much joy and laughter in life as you have faith in God." And I found that a very compelling quote, the correlation between faith and joy. And that goes together well with what we're talking about today. But I want to back up just a little bit to talk about our vision, our intention, our desires, the intention cards that we did a couple of weeks ago. It may be for 2020. It may be bigger and broader. It may be something bigger that you're working on, maybe a life vision that you're working on. But having vision means that we believe that there is a greater possibility for our life than its current state. Greater possibility for our life than its current state. In the science of mind, we teach that vision comes from spirit. That's a divine idea that comes to and through us. And then it's a glimpse into the field of infinite possibilities and what could be possible for us. But the question is, what is our role in that experience? How do we make it welcome in our lives? How do we make it welcome? Ernest Holmes, of course, is the founder of Centers for Spiritual Living and is the author of The Science of Mind, the philosophy that we teach from. And he tells us that desire, the divine urge, as he calls it, which is operating as law, that it produces energy. It's the voice of spirit in you trying to indicate that the thing that you desire is already on its way to you. Prepare to receive. Now that's an exciting idea, isn't it? It's a very exciting idea. When the new desire pops up in me, I've begun to think of it as a spiritual nudge, as a whisper. As spirit saying, let's do this, let's grow, let's expand, let's do this thing, right? But what comes along with that usually? Fear, doubt, right? Before we start truly accepting it. And Ernest is telling us that it's already waiting for us. That when that desire even pops into our mind, that it's already waiting for us, waiting our acceptance of it. But that worry and that doubt comes up, that we're not worthy of this desire, that we're too old, too young, not smart enough, not this enough, not whatever enough, whatever our thing that is in the way is, comes up for us. So holding on to this idea that it's already on its way to me. Why am I afraid? Why am I resisting it, right? The divine urge is the inner desire that we all have to express life. And I know many of us have been in science mind for a long time, and we have a tendency to create a nice life for ourselves. And it's a nice kind of consistent life that we're pretty happy with. And what we're talking about in this vision is not that life is not grand right now, but that we are forever going up in that scale of evolution. We're always expanding and growing. And this idea of vision is to be more completely happy, prosperous, and well. Isn't that a beautiful idea? I am happy, prosperous, and well, and I can be more happy, prosperous, and well. I think that's going to become my greeting. Be prosperous and what was it used to be? Live long and prosper. That's close, right? So yeah, be prosperous and well and happy and joyous. So it's the Spirit unfolding through us in our consciousness. Spirit's ever pushing to grow and expand through us. And the question though is, The question for us today is, will we surrender to that intelligence with the faith and the conviction that Spirit will use us as the perfect channel? Can we get out of the way? One of the most powerful myths that we have accepted in society is that we do have to struggle and work hard. And we have a lot of cliches around that talk about that. You know, early bird gets the worm, right? That's one of them that pops into mind. But a lot of it is that working hard for everything. And in order to build the process of building faith, though, we have to surrender to the divine flow. We have to allow ourselves to surrender to the divine flow. We've got to let go. In the study of the science of mind, it is very interesting to read through Ernest Holmes. And he's very clear and very consistent. Repetitive, I guess would be a better word. He's very repetitive in the Science of Mind text, if you've read it. And he tells us in there that creation, affirmative prayer, and in fact, all of our principles and practices require no effort on our part to make them work. Do you hear the difference? Requires no effort on our part to make them work. They work automatically in a process of universal law. It's a system. It's a system that we already live in. We're born into this operating system that works according to law, alike for all. And that's not to say, though, that we don't have a role in manifesting our life and individualizing this law. We know that life is not predestined. We know that Spirit, God, is not a puppet master. We know that we have the gift of free choice. We must choose the direction of our lives, and we do this through our beliefs. And our beliefs are that little comfort zone that we live in, aren't they? It's that little comfort zone that we live in. My beliefs are here. My life is like this, and this is how it manifests. We were talking in our class on Thursday night, talking in our class on Thursday night, mental equivalence, about this idea of how our lives today are exactly as how we have been picturing them up until now. Everything that we've been holding in our subconscious up until now is now being outpictured in our life, whatever that is, however good or not good or however, whatever we have. It's what we've been holding on to in that subconscious and the subconscious pictures, because we're holding that energetically into our lives, right? And in order to change that experience that we're having, we have to change those pictures. We have to change what we're holding in our subconscious. It's funny in the Science of Mind. I don't know if anybody else is. It's a magic book, in my humble opinion. Anybody's played with it for many years, you may have had a similar experience. But I opened it up the other day, was looking for something else, and it opens up to the back section, which is the meditations. And Holmes has tons of meditations back there in a couple of different sections, and one is titled Self-Help, Meditations for Self-Help. So if there's anything you're working on, thumb through that. There's probably something there for you. But I accidentally opened up to one called My Atmosphere, and it's on page 534. And in it he says, the first sentence, he says, my atmosphere is attracting the good. It is constantly on the alert to see and know the good and bring it into my experience. Perfect for our talk today. If there's effort to be used anywhere, it is here, getting us out of that comfort zone and having the spiritual discipline to change our atmosphere. Do we have the spiritual discipline to change our atmosphere, to step out of that comfort zone and to allow it long enough to hold that new picture in our consciousness, plant those new seeds to allow them to bloom and blossom, to grow strong enough to blossom ultimately in our lives? That's creating the new atmosphere that he's talking about. Another funny thing that happened in the magic book was that as I was going through and looking up what Dr. Holmes had to say about struggle, which was not a lot, he didn't like it very much, but he did have a few things to say, but the next word in the index was stubborn. And it made me laugh. And I thought, there's a message here, right? There's a message here. Yeah, I mean, they kind of go together, struggle and stubborn. And so when I went to the reference, I've read this book many times, but this quote I have never heard the way I did this day. It says, we must expect to contradict human experience if we wish to transcend it. Isn't that powerful? It's a very, very profound statement. We must expect to contradict human experience if we wish to transcend it. Last night I had a little time on my hands and I decided to just look through some TED Talks. I hadn't done that for a while, and the one that popped up, I love magic, the one that popped up was Steve Jobs, his address to Stanford. And I've seen snippets of it and I've heard about it, but I'd never really sat down and listened to the whole thing. And in that, he talks about 3 stories of his life. And one of them, he was talking about his college experience and how he dropped out of college, but he hung around for about 18 months later and took some classes. And one of the classes that he took classes that interested him instead of classes that he was supposed to take. And one of them that he was very interested in, and because he knew nothing about, was calligraphy. So he took a calligraphy class and learned a lot about fonts and spacing and all that sort of thing, and left the class and thought, okay, that was really interesting and fascinating. Until 10 years later, when he's creating the Mac, and he knows about fonts. And so he gave that operating system all of the creative fonts and things that he had learned 10 years earlier in a calligraphy class that he would have had no knowledge of otherwise. He followed his desire, his inspiration. He took the class. He got the information. And then following that creative desire later, he was creating this operating system in the garage of his parents' home and had a use for that knowledge. And so it was just an interesting story about how all of these things come together, and we can see the inspiration and the desire that he had in his life and the impact that Apple has had, like them or not, has had on our world and technology, right? To allow our vision to manifest, we must let go of ideas of struggle and effort and surrender with faith and conviction that Spirit will use us as the perfect channel for the good we desire. If the desire is within us, it comes from Spirit. Spirit doesn't give us these ideas without the channels and the things that we need to make them manifest. But we can't be afraid of stepping into that flow. We can't doubt that. Because again, it's already on its way to us, and that's why we even know about the desire. Now, as I was preparing for the talk this morning, a wonderful idea came forward, and so I'm going to use it. And it reminded me that it's kind of like marketing. You'll appreciate this, Joe. It's kind of like marketing. Spirit has a desire, has an idea, and that's the product, right? And shoots that desire out into humanity, and someone resonates with it and says, yes. That's the advertising, right? That's the advertising. The yes is the buy. I want it, that's mine, I'm buying it. We give them the address and then we wait by the door for the package to arrive. But we can't move. If we move and don't leave that forwarding address, that package can't find us. And that is the idea of holding our consciousness long enough to allow the seeds to blossom in our lives. That was not me, that was a God thing. Wasn't that fun? Anyway, I liked it, I hope you did too. So, when we understand that all desire does come from Spirit, it becomes clear that we must contradict how we've always done life. If we're used to doing life in a certain way, we have to contradict that. We have to do things different. We hear that phrase all the time. We can't do the same thing we've always done and expect to get a different result, right? We've heard that. We hear it in our teaching, but we try to live our lives that way sometimes. We decide we want to experience something different. We want more financial abundance, more love. We want more joy. We want healthier bodies. We want whatever. But we're not willing to change the way we've always done what we've always done. And that's the key in this whole process. And that's where the challenge can come in for us. We must change how we've always done life in order to transcend what currently is, to experience our new vision or our new version of life. Getting out of the way and allowing the good of God to flow through us is the secret of living our vision. So let's look at our spiritual practices this week and see how we can use some of our tools to live more completely happy, prosperous, and well. And again, don't forget to sign up for the Mindful Monday if you haven't signed up for that. And you'll get an email Monday morning that will give you the notes, the quotes, the details, and so forth from today's, as well as the details on the practices that we're doing. So our first one is meditation. And if you remember, a month or so ago, we had Deepak Chopra's 3 steps of meditation. And it was, we did a little flyer Joe did for us, and it's out in the lobby for you this morning. And his 3 steps are, number 1, to sit quietly and do nothing for 20 minutes. Easy. Sit quietly for 20 minutes. The second is ask self-inquiry questions. And the third is to add a mantra. So today, you get to experience the 20 minutes. You get to set your alarm and do that on your own. Your question this week is, in what way can my life be more completely happy, prosperous, and well? In what way could my life possibly be more happy, prosperous, and well? And then the mantra that we would add to that afterwards is, I surrender to the power and the presence of God within me. To allow that to flow through me to bring forward that manifestation. More love, more joy, more peace, more harmony in myself, my surroundings, my planet. Number 2 then is to contemplate and journal on the question, where do I cry out to the universe for change but don't really want to let go of my effort and struggle? Profound question that I've played with this week. It does come from our journal. You'll probably run into it in your reading this week if you're following along. But that's a very profound question, and I hope that you'll try it this week and see what comes forward for you as well. Number 3, continuing to work with your affirmation for your 2021 intention. If you have not crafted an affirmation to your liking, or if it doesn't feel powerful or clear enough for you, please see me, see Daniel, email us, and let us help you with that to really hone in on a very empowering affirmation for you to use with your intention this year. And if your intention has already manifested, congratulations. I would invite you to leave another intention and a gratitude in the silver box this morning. So our spiritual practices are our daily workout that we use to transform our mind. And just like a physical workout changes our bodies, our spiritual workout changes our lives. So I want to close this morning with a poem that was actually in the Joyous Living Journal by Loretta Burns, and it's called Broken Dreams. As children bring their broken toys with tears for us to mend, I brought my broken dreams to God because He was my friend. But then I insisted, instead of leaving Him in peace to work alone, I hung around and tried to help with ways that were my own. At last I snatched them back and cried, "How could you be so slow?" "My child," he said, "what could I do? You never did let go." May we each find joy this week in the letting go. So would you join me for an affirmative prayer? As we go within, We recognize that there is one life, one infinite power, one presence, and that is God. It is Spirit. It is source, essence, presence. It is the Holy Spirit. It is whatever it is that we want to call it, that infinite intelligence and wisdom that is the system in which we live. It is the love in which we live. It is the harmony in which we live. God is all that there is. There's nothing outside of God. There is not God in anything else. There is only this infinite source, this infinite love, unconditioned, unconditional, creation, creativity, creator. And all of it is here now present. All of it, not some of it, all of it is right here, present right now. And it is in, through, and as me, as an expression of it, for I am manifested of that one substance, that one source. And as I know this of myself, I know it for each one of us gathered here in the room today, those who are joining us online, those who will be watching later in the week. We are all connected in this infinite presence, power, consciousness, love, harmony, and joy of the universe. Right here, right now. Always has been, always will be. We are never separate. We are never alone. We are always connected in the wholeness and the unity of one. And so as I know that, I speak my word for and about us today, knowing that we can let go. We can trust. We can have the faith that we were born with as the baby infants that we came into this expression of life as. Recognizing and knowing in that deep faith of care that we would always be cared and provided for, just like the birds and the animals and the plants, everything is taken care of in this system called life. We are cared for. We are loved. We can trust this infinite system, this infallible system that existed before us and will exist long after we are gone. It is the infinite system of love. It is the infinite system of life. And so we let go, we step in, we trust, and we claim Spirit as our guide, knowing we are guarded, knowing we are protected always. I know for anyone this day that has anything on their heart, as we lift that into the power of this prayer and this consciousness right here, right now, I know that whatever needs to be healed is healed, revealed is made clear. If there is financial flow and good that needs to come, that it is coming easily and effortlessly and filling every cup as we gratefully receive and accept the bounty, the answers, the health, the wellness, the information, the intuition, the intelligence. And how grateful I am for this knowing. How grateful I am to know that this is the truth. This is how this system works. This is how this law works. We speak our word into it with conviction, with our beliefs, knowing that it is done. And I know that now as I release this into the action of law, the activity of mind, it is done. And we affirm together by saying, and so it is.